Okay guys, welcome back. Now, I usually like to joke around and say that the developers have been smoking that good stuff back when they have been creating the stats for the Nestor. Now, we all know that we have tanky ships, we have ships with high DPS, we have logistic ships, we have guardians, and then there is the Nestor. Now, this thing has the best armor tank stats in the game out of any battleship. This thing, with the recent drone changes, with the recent balance patch, has one of the best drone DPS outputs in the game. It can actually out DPS the rattlesnake. This thing is fast. The Nestor is the fastest battleship in the game, and probably one of the lightest battleships as well. It has the mass of a battlecruiser. The Nestor has a bonus on remote armor repairs, group armor repairs, so it can be a logistic ship as well. And the Nestor has a bonus on exploration, so this thing can be a exploration boat. So yeah, one of the craziest and most insane ships in the game, and I haven't even covered all of its stats yet. So let's just quickly, take a glance at what this thing can do. So here you have it can fit armor link modules. So this thing is a guardian as well. So we have a guardian, we have a logistic ship, we have a DPS ship, we have a tank ship, we have something that's ridiculously fast. It has a very good bonus on scanning, so yeah, it can be a combat scanner as well. The best scanner in the game, actually. It has, again, crazy drone damage, it has a good cargo hold. So yeah, this thing can do everything, and I don't like to say that we have overpowered ships in the game, but I feel like the Nestor is definitely getting there because of the ridiculous stats that this thing has. And you might wonder, well, what are the negatives of this ship? Well, the Nestor is slow. Not slow. The Nestor is extremely expensive. That's the only downside that the ship currently has. Everything else, it's perfect. So, today I'll be taking a look at the Nestor to see how it will perform after the balance patch, and I will also show you a lot of different builds. I did change the build a couple times, and now I also improved some of the other capabilities of this ship. And with that being said, I think it will be time to go to the fitting menu and see what I have on the ship. The new skills that have been recently added to the game have vastly improved the Nestor as well. Now I have just above 2000 DPS, I have rapid missiles in the high slots. I personally like to use rapid missiles, or in this case any missiles, to be honest, although you are free to use any other weapon that you have skills for. Dual webs, one scrambler and a armor link module. As for the drones, I use offense drones. They have the highest DPS. Now I would say, and I would actually recommend, that you always carry the whole beehive in the drone bay, just in case you have to change a drone, or just in case that you have to replace the damage type. After all, every drone does its own damage type, which is very interesting, and their stats are now quite different. And later I will show you the DPS stats on all of these drones. Dual armor repairs, dual adaptive armor harness, a capacitor battery, and a micro warp drive. Overall, this is one of the default builds that you can use on the Nestor, although I will show you a lot of different builds that I personally like. Now I have the Illusionary Ghost Nanocore. I pick the nanocores based on their looks. I really like how this one looks, so for this video I will use it. It is not upgraded, I only have the primary attribute unlocked. There are no secondaries, so only the primary stat will be active throughout the video. But yeah, this ship is indeed very pretty. And as for the other nanocores, you have a lot of other nanocores that you can choose from. I would recommend that you go with the Concord Pass nanocore. It is cheap, very easy to obtain, and it doesn't cost any real money, so you can basically grind to get the core. That's what I mostly do for all of my ships. The only nanocore that I was lucky to get was the sleeper nanocore for the stabber, but all of my other nanocores are from the Concord Pass, or they are blue nanocores. Now as for the rigs, classic for P setup for maximum possible resistance and tank. Two of the integrations have the armor volume rig, while the rig in the middle has armor volume and extra armor repair. So this Nestor can do a passive tank and a active tank, although for an active tank I would still prefer to have more of the nanobot rigs, but I guess this combination works as well. Triple auxiliary thrusters in the engineering rigs, 373,000 hit points, 68, 81, 81 and 74% resistance, which honestly is already looking very good and pretty tanky. Okay, sorry for the weird cut. I struggled a bit to find fuel for this thing. I have my fuel scattered all over the place, and well, I guess I have to I have to organize my hangar a little bit better. So, as for the implants, you have two options. You have the thermal circulation if you want to go full tank, and this is the implant that I have enabled at the moment. 20% extra armor resistance is always going to be helpful, and this implant is going to make this thing really broken in terms of tank, as you will see very soon. As for the general units, I usually like to go with armor plates if I go for a passive tank, capacitor batteries or Nosferatus for an active tank, and if you go with an active tank, then use the armor repair unit. It will improve the armor repair quite a bit. And if you have the micro warp drive, the micro warp drive unit is also going to be very helpful. After all, this thing is insanely fast. Now the speed has been nerfed a little bit since now the auxiliary thrusters have the penalty if you have multiple of them installed, so I don't expect this thing to be as fast as it used to be, although it still is extremely light and you can get some crazy velocities out of this thing. So let's see the active stats of the Nestor, and I think, yeah, it is so sad that these nanocores are behind a paywall because they look so good. The aesthetics are perfect on these nanocores. The DPS is still the same, 606,000 hit points, 83, 90, 90 and 86%. Okay, well that's actually really good. I expected a little bit less, but I guess well, yeah, I guess I was wrong. It's actually really solid, and the speed is 2.6 kilometers per second, which is still really fast. Used to go 2.9 actually with the same build. With the armor link module active, now the tank is a bit higher, 340,000 hit points, 85, 91, 91 and 87%. Okay, well, it gives me extra 6.54% armor resistance. Okay, now the link module as well as the shield bubble has been changed. They now prevent your ship from warping as long as it's active, although the armor link module didn't get as nerfed as the shield bubble, because the armor link module doesn't make your ship slower. I would say it's making it faster, but yeah, the armor tank, the armor spider tank, is definitely going to be very, very fun. Now we can do a build like this: dual adaptive anti-damage control with dual armor repairs. And for that one web, you can go with a Nosferatu or dual Nosferatus, or you can even replace the armor link module for a Nosferatu. It really depends on the situation, depends on the fleet. You can only have one link module active in a fleet, by the way, so if your Nestor is not designed to use the armor link module in the fleet, then it's probably a better idea to replace it with something else. Or, you know, you could be the backup Nestor. If the first Nestor dies, then you have a backup in the fleet that has the armor link module, so that also works. 663,000 hit points, 85, 91, 91 and 88%, a little bit better. 79,000 armor. The speed is still the same. 700,000 hit points, 86, 92, 92 and 88%, which is still really, really tanky. And the damage control panic button, 2 million, over just over 2 million hit points, almost 2.1 million hit points, 95, 97, 97 and 96% resistance, which is again really, really good. Okay, well, let's dock and let me show you a couple more tank builds. I forgot to mention, I will show you the cheap option as well, because that's what I do nowadays. I show the expensive option, I show what I like to use, and I show the cheaper option that also works really, really well. So next build, triple adaptives, 1 damage roll and 1 armor repair. Now I usually don't like to use only 1 armor repair. I usually like to use at least 2 of them. That's just how armor works. But since this thing is so tanky and so fast, in a lot of cases 1 armor repair might actually be enough. However, I would still prefer 2 armor repairs, at least 2 of them. Or if you're in a fleet, then you don't have to worry a lot about the armor, since in a fleet, in an organized fleet, you will have all the ships that will repair you, and you also have other guardians, so your armor resistance will be very good. 773,000 hit points, which is now much better with the armor link module active. 117,000 hit points, 88, 93, 93 and 90%, which is, you know, pretty good. And with the damage control active, 2.4 million hit points, 96, 96, 96, 98, 98 and 97% resistance. It still goes 2.6 kilometers per second, which is horrifying how fast this thing goes. It's a brick and it's fast, and it can have some good DPS. This thing is just absolutely mental. I love this ship. So this build is a passive armor tank build. Now I will show you a build and an idea after this build that unfortunately I haven't seen much in action. And in theory you can create a nearly immortal Nestor fleet, and I'll explain more when I swap to that build. But this thing really did tickle my imagination on a lot of different builds and a lot of different ideas and a lot of different fleet setups. 890,000 hit points, 89, 93, 93 and 90%, which is again very, very scary stats. With the armor link module, 942,000 hit points, we are hitting nearly 1,000,000 hit points without a damage control. And I think this thing outperforms the Rattlesnake in terms of how many hit points it has, which is interesting. Now let's just wait a couple seconds for the damage control to get out of the cooldown. But so far, I'm very happy with the Nestor. This thing has so much potential for a lot of different crazy ideas. The only downside is its price. It's very risky to fly it. That's, I think, the biggest downside on this thing. 2.7 million hit points, 97, 98, 98 and 97. You know, this is actually how much, well, actually it's not exactly the same number, but this is about the same amount of hit points my Revelation used to have up until like 2 months ago. So you can have a battleship with a tank of a dreadnought that goes almost 3000 meters per second, and that can have some horrifying DPS. This thing is just, if we look at the paper stats, it is, I mean, absolutely insane. There's just no denying. And now, the fit that I had in mind. So this is a remote armor repair fleet built Nestor. You have a bonus on the remote armor repairs, so you might as well use them. The idea behind this build is to have a fleet of about 10, 15, 30 Nestors, all have the same build, or approximately the same build. Now, you have a bunch of implants, and the remote armor repair implant that I'll show you here actually gives you, your ship, extra armor resistance when you repair other ships, and it gives them extra armor resistance as well. So you can technically increase each other's resistance up to 98, 99%, depending on how many Nestors you have. And you don't even have to have the implant on level 30. Level 15 is enough to get the effect going. So yeah, you can imagine what 20 of these ships can do if they are well organized. Now, not all Nestors should have the implant, although they can. If you want maximum tank, then I guess going the thermal circulation plus remote armor repair implant is the way to go. But you want to have a squad of Nestors that will have the dromons. You want to have one squad of Nestors that are going to be tanks, and also you want to have the remote armor repair Nestors that will give your fleet resistance. So I'm just giving you some ideas to play around with, and some builds that, you know, might be interesting. But can you imagine what these things can potentially do? I mean, it's already ridiculous. You don't even have to have the damage control active to get 99%. Like, these things are nearly immortal if the idea gets, you know, a perfect execution in a fleet. The only thing is, these things cost a lot, and I wish that my corp had like 20 Nestors. We would probably do some stupid stuff with it, but we don't, because we don't have the budget for it. Now you might be wondering, well, you fly like an A-type Revelation, like your corp mates like roll X types and whatnot. Well, yeah, a Nestor fleet like that requires a big coalition or alliance effort to get it to work. A small corp just will not have enough funds to get a crazy idea like this going. Now let me actually show you the active stats on this thing. Now you can't repair your drone and get the armor resistance. You have to repair another ship. So yeah, I tried to get those extra 25% out of the repair implant. It did not work. So you have to repair another player. And yeah, I really do like this idea with a Nestor fleet. Unfortunately, I haven't seen anyone attempt a 10, 15, 20, 30 man Nestor fleet yet. Would love to see it happen. Although it does require a lot of coordination, and I feel like in order to get the best effect out of it, you really have to have 100% 100% performance out of all players within the fleet. No one has to make a mistake in order to pull something this off. And again, the capacitor is not going to be a problem because of the group boosters. You also repair the armor. You also have the armor link module. Well, one has to have the armor link module. And you have a insane tank, and you also increase the resistance by repairing each other. So capacitor is not going to be the problem. Tank is not going to be the problem. DPS is not going to be the problem. You have a bunch of drones there to do DPS. Speed is not going to be a problem. These things are fast. What's going to be the problem? Well, the price. that's the only problem here. How much did it cost to get something as insane as this going? Doesn't have to be integrated. That's also one thing that I almost forgot. Let me show the cheaper option now. The Nestors don't have to be integrated, but I feel like to get the maximum effect out of it, they have to be integrated. If you want to really push the limits, you really have to integrate them. But it's not necessary. It's important to have the resistance holes covered, and I believe even with a cheap build, it should still work really well. Now, let me add some normal rigs now. So I will cover the holes on the armor first, and the adaptive harness, as well as the reactive and the other tank modules will cover the rest. 71, 77, 63 and 68, that means let's add one kinetic. Okay, and the kinetic added. 71, 77, 78 and 68. Well, it's actually well balanced. I don't like the explosive hole, but I believe that once all the modules are running, that it will cover that nicely. You can actually do one integration and have two normal rigs. That also works. It's also budget friendly, so you also have that one idea. But you also, if you don't like to use integrations, you can easily do something like this. It's not going to be a big problem. So let's take a look at the tank. 675,000 hit points, 89, 92, 92 and 88, which is good. Pretty happy with the result. Let me turn on the other modules. 712,000 hit points, 90, 92, 92 and 89%. Again, I'm pretty happy with that. And with the damage control, 2.1 million hit points. I'm more than happy with this result. It did not sacrifice a lot of tank, only like 300,000 hit points, which in the grand scale, in a fleet, in a Nestor fleet is honestly not going to be much, although I can see situations where it can be noticed, but in most cases it's going to be about the same. And now, my favorite part, well actually, I like the DPS and the tank about the same on this thing. It's time to show you the maximum DPS output on this little monster. Oh man. So, currently the rattlesnake holds, out of the all ships that I tested recently, the rattlesnake has the highest DPS. I've heard the Dominix 2 has high DPS. I will test it out, but haven't tested yet, so for now the rattlesnake is the highest. And well, 3742.66 DPS. Now if you're fighting a battleship, I would go with torpedo launchers. For anything smaller, rapid missile launchers will be the way to go. Triple scanners, a web, and I will have offense drones, offense ogres in this case, because they have the highest DPS, although I would say you can mix the drones here to defeat the yellow harness, the reactive harness. You can also pick any other drone combination that you like. You can also pick to try. You can also pick the damage type that will work the best against the target. There's a lot of options that you can choose from here. Quads, drone damage amplifiers, 1 damage control and 1 micro warp drive. So, with this build, you want to go with the drone bombs. Now this is the DPS build, the DPS PvP build that I use on a lot of my own ships, and so far it's been working flawlessly, no issues whatsoever. Now, in order to get the maximum effect out of the bombs, you don't want to use the remote reload if you want to do PvP with it. You want to have that 300% extra bomb damage. This is where things get absolutely mental with this thing. 300% extra damage, and we already have about 4,000 cold. This is, we're talking about almost cold, like no modules active, cold DPS, and we're almost hitting 4,000. So for the units, I would go and I would slap the drone damage amplifier units, because I usually aim for the maximum possible short burst that I can get. Usually bells with builds like these are short, you aim to kill the target as quickly as possible. You still have some good tank, by the way, because the ship does get a armor bonus. Don't forget, this thing gets an armor bonus, so yeah, it's a thing that the Nestor just does, and it just has a lot of very silly stats on this thing, so at this moment I'm not even surprised. This thing is just insane. So let's take a look at what is the maximum possible DPS that I can get on this little boat. This is the module out that I like. Looks nice and clean. So with the drone bombs active, my DPS got tripled, and 3,867. I have about 11,601 DPS right now. This is without the amplifiers running. Yeah, that's a lot of DPS. Okay, well, let's go through the amplifiers. Let's go with the... Well, the speed is 8.2 km per second. For large drones, that's actually quite speedy. You can chase down frigates with this thing if you have the implant on level 45. Although level 15 or level 30 is still more than enough. 4.5 thousand with the first one, with the second one 5.3 thousand, with the third one 5.8 thousand, oh my god, and with the fourth one 6,095 DPS. Well, that's about a lot of DPS. Let me do the math here. 16,000 drone DPS out of the Nestor. Well, the best combat logi in the game. And this is, yeah, I'm a little bit speechless because this is just wild. This is just wild. The drone bombs need to be nerfed, and you get 687,000 hit points. 88, 84, 84 and 78% when the damage roll is active. Now we can do a build like this: triple drone damage amplifiers, 1 adaptive, 1 damage control, and a micro warp drive. If you want a bit more tank, you can also do 1 armor plate, 1 adaptive, and a damage control. Also works really well. You will sacrifice a little bit of DPS, but you get a bit more tank, and you can do something like this: dual adaptives, dual drone damage amplifiers, a micro warp drive, a damage control. Still has about the same DPS, and if you're worried about drone speed, you can add a drone navigation computer That will enhance the drone speed quite a bit, and it should make chasing smaller targets much easier. But again, we have a lot of options. Now, one extremely annoying thing about drone modes is when you have to swap the drones. This is one of the most annoying and one of the most time-consuming processes in the game, and it's extremely laggy. This is one aspect that has to be improved, and yeah, this was very painful to do, and I usually this is why I don't like to change drones that often, because it takes half a decade to just get the change to work. But 2420.8 DPS with the medium drones, and that DPS is getting tripled when the bombs are active, by the way. 2,800 with the first one, 3,200 with the second one, 3,600 with the third one, and with the last one we have 3,077 DPS, or about 10,000 DPS with the medium drones. Medium drones are good against small targets like battlecruisers, cruisers, and frigates. They have decent speed, so chasing down a small target is not going to be a big issue. And now let me swap to the small drones, or the scout drones, light drones, however you want to call them. It's about the same thing, actually. So I don't think that it's very necessary to use light drones against small targets, because the Valkyries are already fast enough. But just in case, if your skills are not all up to the task, then you can easily use the small drones, light drones as well. 1,509 DPS, which is pretty solid. No frigate or tackle cruiser is going to live through those small drones, I can guarantee you that. And I forgot to load one torpedo launcher. I haven't even realized that I was missing a module, my bad. 1,900 DPS, although the drone DPS is about the same. 1.5 or 2,100 DPS, 2,300 DPS, and with the last one 2,400 DPS, or 1,859.19 DPS if we count drones only. With the drone bombs, this DPS is of course getting tripled. So yeah, tell me one frigate that can tank about 7,500 DPS, 6,500 DPS. Yeah, no frigate can tank that. So this DPS with light drones is honestly a little bit overkill. But I like DPS, you like DPS, we all like DPS, so I go full DPS. Now, like I mentioned before, you can do various different combinations with the drones. What I actually like to do on my Stratios, I like to put one of each. Basically, I have one of each damage types equipped, just in case if the target is using reactive shield or reactive armor harness, that gets defeated that way, because the reactive hardener is only effective against 1 or 2 damage types, but it's not going to be effective against 4 of them, so it also works really well. And you can match, I mean, as I mentioned before, every drone now has its own stats. The Mimata drones are fast, the Galante drones have high DPS, the other 2 drones are also quite unique, so they made the game much more interesting in that aspect. And now, let's yeet this Nestor at a mission to see how it will perform. Now, this is a PvE build that we can use, although I'm thinking about a long-range sentry build for high sec. This is a high sec build, by the way. Do not use this build in low sec, do not use this build in null sec. It's designed to work only in high sec, where DPS is all that matters. Technically, with the Nestor, you can replace the rattlesnake. Kinda funny, isn't it? Although the rattlesnake has much more low slots, it has 7 of them. Although the Nestor has better DPS stats, so these are the two things that are kinda weird. And one advantage that the Nestor has over the rattlesnake is the fact that it's fast, and the other advantage is the fact that it has a bonus on all drones, while the rattlesnake only has a bonus on the large ones. Now, I'm not saying that the rattlesnake is bad. The rattlesnake is the tankiest, one of the tankiest shield tank battleships in the game. Although, you know, we have to look also at the fact that the Nestor can be a Logi, can be a Guardian, can be DPS, can be exploration boat. The only thing that it can do is cloak, and hopefully the developers don't hear me say this, because if they hear me say this, they'll make the Nestor cloak next. Just watch it happen. Watch it happen. Next thing we know, the Nestor can cloak. It will be a Black Ops battleship, and I'll just, you know, I'll just laugh. I mean, I'm not really sure why, but actually no, I know why. Back in the day, when I jumped in the Nestor for the first time, the only thing that this ship had going for it was its speed and tank. No one was really doing exploration with it. It was not really a good option at the time. No one really used the Nestor for a Logi at the time because it had no bonus for that. It was ridiculously expensive, and at the time the Nestor was in a very, let's say, weird position. I did say that actually. Had to look back at some of the older videos for a moment just to verify what I was talking about here. So I said that the Nestor was in a very weird spot, and for the price it wasn't really worth it at the time. And the developers heard me say that, and they decided to make me wrong. So they buffed the Nestor, and they gave the Nestor much more stats. And you know, now when I look at the ship after 3 years of playing, and after so many things have happened, I would say that the Nestor is actually, you know, perhaps worth buying now. Now, for the similar performance, you have a lot of other options, honestly, like the Dominic's, the rattlesnake. Both have some very good drones and very good drone DPS. And in the grand scale of things, they might not be as fast, but they are definitely going to be almost as effective as the Nestor. So you can get similar performance for a much cheaper price, but there are some things that the other ships just can't do, and the Nestor is doing them for a while now. So just for the fact that this thing can do so much now, I feel like it might be worth to buy now. I don't know. I haven't bought the Nestor yet. I have the Spaceman. I had to buy the Spaceman. I just love the ship so much. I had to buy it. But I actually thought to get the Nestor as well, but I wasn't really... I don't know, I was on the fence on doing that. But now, after the drones have been buffed, after the new skills have been released, and after the game has changed so much, I feel like the Nestor is definitely going to be a very interesting choice for a faction battleship. It might be still uh, quite expensive. I haven't watched the price. I know the space spend is now 11 or 13 billion. After this video is released, I believe the price of the Nestor might actually go up. So for those who get the Nestor cheap, well, good job. You got yourself a good ship. For the rest of us who will buy the ship after, well, we might have to pay a bit more risk to get this thing. And you know, this is me, you know, still not really convinced that this ship is a good choice for me. I'm now talking from my personal perspective because I haven't been flying drone boats in a very long time. I have skilled out of drones, so I mean I can easily go back to drones. It's not a big deal. I have enough skill points, I have enough of everything actually to just go back to drones on all 5. But I'll have to probably test out the other battleship drone modes to see what type of DPS I get on them, and when I do that I'll definitely have a clear picture of all of the issues. But I mean, I'm honestly very surprised at how good this thing is now. I mean, the Nestor used to be, like I mentioned before, average. I mean, it's tanky, it's fast, but that's about it. It has a very high price. Now, yeah, it has a different feel to it. It feels more like some of the other battleships that I used to fly. And I'm actually very happy that that's the case, because you guys know me, I love all the ships in the game, and I actually love all ships. Like there is no ship that I don't like. All ships have their place in the game, and as we all have heard, we might actually get a Rifter 2, Tristan 2, the tier 10 versions and missing ships of the tech tree. I'm very happy that that's the case. Very happy for the step that the developers are doing in the category of having new ships, new smaller ships that I'm actually quite interested in. So it definitely, you know, woke up quite a bit of. It gave me a lot more energy actually to test all of these different things out, because it's a pleasant surprise, and I think it's a pleasant surprise for a lot of you guys as well. Now, if you're wondering why do I sound a bit weird today, well, let's say my what was it? Left, right. My lower jaw wisdom teeth is acting up a little bit, so I feel like I have a bowling ball in the corner of my mouth, and yeah, trying not to accidentally do much damage to that, because man, let me tell you, wisdom teeth hurt like hell. And yeah, I'm unfortunately cursed to have all 4 of them, and they all decided to yeet. So yeah, that's how things are at the moment. So yeah, my apologies if I sound accepted. Like I'm biting my tongue constantly, because in some cases I actually am. So the Nestor, a very insane mental ship. I love this thing. I mean, when I say mental ship, I don't mean anything in a bad way. I love this thing. It's such a very fun ship. It's unique. It's good looking. I mean, I like to look at my ships. They're very pretty ships, and overall, a very interesting choice for a battleship currently in the game. So yeah, if you guys would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, fly safe, and I'll see you next time.